So today I'm going to talk about the Medici family, the family of the Renaissance that ruled Florence with all their money. And I'll start off talking about basically who were they and how did they go and rule the city. The first thing is that they were bankers. They were in control of money. They were basically the bankers for the Catholic Church, and being in control of the money of the Catholic Church makes you pretty powerful. Their style of ruling is kind of behind the scenes. Don't hold a lot of positions of power, maybe political power. Kind of have control over the people that have political power. They're huge patrons of the arts, meaning they'll go and pay for a lot of the famous Renaissance art that comes out of Florence. They're friends with all these big Renaissance artists. And they'll do a lot of kind of, like the idea of the Italian mob kind of comes into fruition during the Medici era. So threats, strategic marriages, they'll pay somebody off, murder, all of these lovely fun things will start in the Medici dynasty. So starting off, the first Medici that you need to know is Mr. Giovanni de' Medici. There he is right there. Giovanni started actually from humble origins. He really didn't have much money, but he's going to start this family off on this dynasty. What's going to happen is this is during the time of the Papal Schism, where there's two different popes. And what happens is the pirate pope, John the 23rd, he's accused of incest, and he goes to jail. And the person that bails him out is Giovanni de' Medici. He's trying to get in tight with the pope. And the pope goes and makes a good deal with Giovanni. He basically says, do you want to be the banker for the church? And Giovanni has kind of a local small bank, and he says, sure. And this is going to basically go and allow the Medici family to expand, and their power and their money grows a lot larger. Technically, during the Renaissance, during this period, charging interest on loans, what's called usury, was illegal. So usury was technically illegal. So how do you have a family that's a banking family make money? They really did usury, but they said it wasn't. So what I mean by that is they would say, oh, well, the market fluctuates, so we need to charge you some form of interest, which is a way to get around those laws. Also, tithing was a legal requirement at the time, so people had to give 10% of their incomes to the church. So there's a lot of money flowing in there, obviously. Each of these Medici family members is going to have kind of a legacy or some parting words on their deathbed. So Giovanni's kind of impact, his parting words on his family was 1, focus on money because money brings power. Don't be in the front. Don't focus on political power. And 2, be an indirect influence. Have your hand in the political process, but don't have it so clearly seen. So that's the legacy of Giovanni. The next one is Cosimo. Cosimo really steps up the Medici family. So Cosimo is Giovanni's son. Cosimo really steps up the Medici family to another level. He's called the father of the country. He's that important to the Medici family. The first thing, or one of the big things that he does, is he actually organizes a Catholic Orthodox meeting. Remember, the church had split in 1054 over the use of icons, and they had been dueling ever since, including the Crusades, where they really don't like each other. Cosimo actually invites the Orthodox Church over into Italy and pays for basically their room and board for this big meeting. And what this does is it actually semi-unites the church for almost 10 years. Catholics are excited because they want to increase their power over the Orthodox region. So my point here with this church meeting is that it actually goes and just kind of is a sign that the Medici family have a lot of influence, even beyond just local Florence politics. The Medici family, there's other rival banking families at the time, and they don't like them. They are actually forced out. They're exiled out of Florence. And when they went and were forced to leave Florence, Cosimo took all his money with him. And the people actually invited him back because of his importance on the Florence economy. So they were returned to Florence as well. He built the Medici Palace, which I'll show you in a minute, which is, the family will go use it. So the Palazzo Medici. He also built the Platonic Academy. He was a humanist. He also financed going and building the Duomo, which is the Florence Cathedral. Brunelleschi was the designer, and he famously got the design of the Duomo. It was partially completed, and he got the job by going and saying that he could balance an egg on one end, and the way that he did it was he smashed the egg halfway into the ground, and the egg stood upright. And that's how he made the design of the Duomo, which is the first dome built in over 1,000 years. Cosimo's words, his final words, his parting words, was basically hang outside the government buildings. Don't go inside, just be on the outside. And when people ask you to do something, do it reluctantly. Don't do it because you don't want to look super eager. Do it kind of as a sign of that you don't want to do it when in fact you really do. What this does is it makes you not look desperate, but it also keeps you in control. His son, Lorenzo, is going to be a bit more flashy and not follow Daddy's dying wishes. This is an interesting quote about Cosimo de' Medici. Political questions are settled in Cosimo's house. The man he chooses holds office. He it is who decides peace and war. He is a king in all but name. So that's very Medici style. He's a king, but not really. Doesn't have the title. Cosimo de' Medici also was a patron of the arts. A quote from him says, "All those things have given me the greatest satisfaction and contentment, because they are not only for the honor of God, but likewise for my own remembrance. For 50 years, I have done nothing else but earn money and spend money. It became clear that spending money gives me greater pleasure than earning it." So he spends all this stuff on artistic endeavors, including finishing the Duomo. So these next slides, I'm just going to click through here quickly. Just pictures of the famous Duomo. You need to know it. You can see a lot of parts to it. Gothic interior, so you can see that the ribbed vaults, which we talked about in medieval architecture. The building is obviously inspired by the Pantheon, with the oculus up here from ancient Rome. Brunelleschi is, in fact, buried inside the Duomo. So here's the kind of an interior courtyard shot of Palazzo Medici, and I'll show you an exterior shot. So here's the exterior shot. Supposed to look fairly toned down. Cosimo actually rejected the original design because he said it was too flashy. He didn't want to make the people in Florence mad at the Medici family for all their wealth. So they toned it down. So this is what it looks like on the outside, and then contrast it with what it looks like on the inside. So obviously very flashy on the inside, but the people in Florence, unless you go inside, you don't know it. So that was intentional to go and not kind of show their wealth in order to have an uprising against them. So before we get to Lorenzo, we'll talk about who's actually Lorenzo's dad, Piero the Gouty. Piero had gout, and he was a very sickly member. But gout is a disease that affects the joints, and he was a very sickly and inefficient family member. All you need to know, he's in between Cosimo and Lorenzo. So then we go to Lorenzo el Magnifico, or Lorenzo the Magnificent. His emphasis was on arts, not banking. So he spent a lot of money, but he wasn't exactly good at balancing the bank accounts. Lorenzo is known for being a lot more flashy, which went and made some enemies. In particular, the Pazzi family, who was like the rival banking family of the Medici, and the Pope, which is a big no-no. What happened is the Pazzi family and the Pope actually teamed up to go and kill Lorenzo and his brother Giuliano on Easter Sunday inside the Duomo. What happened was there was an assassination attempt led by the Pazzi family in which the two brothers were killed or attempted to be murdered during the Mass. Giuliano does die. He is stabbed to death. Lorenzo is stabbed, but he escapes out of the Duomo, goes to a safe house, and the city basically goes and sides with the Medici family. There's a big uprising in the city, and the Pazzis are basically rounded up and killed. Lorenzo becomes the new leader of the city. Pazzi family, their plan backfires, but then you still have the Pope, who is going to be against the Medici family. So I'll leave it there at that. We have the Pope mad at the Medici family, and Lorenzo surviving the Pazzi assassination attempt.